Preparing a surgical airway requires a highly controlled environment. When natural pathways fail, the surgical team must be ready to bypass them entirely. The primary indication for this procedure is the expectation of prolonged mechanical ventilation. When a patient cannot be safely weaned off a ventilator, an endotracheal tube is no longer a viable long-term solution. Intervention is also required when severe upper airway obstruction blocks airflow. Malignant tumors, massive edema, or direct physical trauma to the face and neck can render these standard routes impassable. For patients with severe neurological impairment, the issue is not always obstruction, but protection. Without intrinsic airway reflexes like coughing or swallowing, the lungs are dangerously exposed to aspiration. Similarly, when a patient produces excessive secretions and lacks the ability to clear them, a direct access point is required to keep the lungs functioning. A tracheostomy provides exactly this critical access. It is a precise surgical bypass designed to establish definitive, long-term airway security when natural physiology cannot maintain it. The operation begins with positioning. The patient is placed supine, and a shoulder roll is positioned beneath them to deliberately extend the neck, drawing the trachea forward. There is a strict exception to this positioning. If a cervical spine injury is suspected, excessive neck extension is completely avoided to prevent spinal cord damage. A 3D map shows the superior boundary, the shield-like thyroid cartilage. Moving inferiorly, we find the cricoid cartilage, a firm ring. Below this lies the ultimate target, the second, third, and fourth tracheal rings, providing the safest surgical access. Before the first cut is made, baseline physiological monitoring must be locked in. Continuous ECG tracking, blood pressure readings, and oxygen saturation are actively tracked. By combining precise anatomical mapping with continuous physiological data, the surgical team transforms what would otherwise be a blind incision into a strictly controlled entry. The surgeon initiates the procedure with a transverse skin incision, placed exactly 1 to 2 centimeters below the cricoid cartilage. The scalpel progresses systematically through the superficial layer of yellow subcutaneous tissue beneath the skin. This anatomical cross-section illustrates the next barrier, the platysma. The surgeon must dissect cleanly through this thin red band of muscle to access the deeper structural layers of the neck. Beneath the platysma, the deep fascia is cleared to expose the strap muscles, which run vertically down the midline of the neck, shielding the trachea. This vector schematic demonstrates the surgical technique used here. The strap muscles are not severed transversely. Instead, they are carefully separated along the midline. Lateral retraction of these separated muscle bands creates and maintains an open, stable surgical window directly over the airway. Separating these muscles along their natural vertical lines preserves anterior neck function, while establishing a rigid, protective corridor down to the deep structures. The final physical barrier overlying the upper tracheal rings is often the thyroid isthmus, a highly vascular bridge of tissue that connects the two lobes of the thyroid gland. If the isthmus is small and mobile, the surgeon can apply gentle superior or inferior retraction to expose the tracheal rings hidden directly behind it. If its anatomical lie prevents safe retraction, the isthmus must be formally divided and heavily ligated to clear the operative path. Throughout this deep dissection phase, maintaining strict hemostasis, controlling any and all bleeding, is an absolute requirement. If hemostasis is inadequate, blood rapidly pools into the surgical cavity, completely obscuring physical depth and anatomical structure, just as the airway is exposed. Managing the thyroid isthmus and meticulously tying off bleeding vessels guarantee complete visual clarity for the most critical step, breaching the airway. Prior to entry, the surgeon re-verifies the exact anatomical level. The target remains strictly confined to the second, third, and fourth tracheal rings. As illustrated, entering too high at the cricoid cartilage can cause irreversible subglottic injury, compromising the vocal cords. Conversely, entering too low risks cutting a dense web of major thoracic blood vessels, severely elevating the risk of catastrophic hemorrhage. With the correct rings identified, the anterior trachea is opened. The surgeon may use a specific approach, such as creating a horizontal window or a specialized U-shaped Bjork flap to ensure a stable opening. The precise moment the tracheal lumen is breached, immediate suction is applied to clear pooled secretions and blood from the respiratory tract. If the patient is already intubated, the existing endotracheal tube must now be withdrawn in a highly synchronized maneuver between the surgeon and the anesthesiologist. The endotracheal tube is withdrawn just enough so its tip rests entirely above the new surgical opening. This preserves upper airway control as an immediate, ready backup in case of complications. Airway entry represents a fragile physiological pivot point. Control of the patient's breathing is temporarily transferred from the internal tube to the open surgical field, demanding absolute coordination across the entire medical team. To transition back to a closed circuit, the surgical opening in the trachea is gently dilated to accommodate the specific outer diameter of the tracheostomy tube. The main tracheostomy tube is inserted with a rigid obturator locked inside it. This provides the necessary structural stiffness to guide the tube smoothly into the airway without damaging the posterior tracheal wall. The second the tube is seated properly within the trachea, the rigid obturator is pulled out and removed from the sterile field. The obturator is instantly replaced with a hollow inner cannula, which clears the central lumen and finally permits airflow into the patient's lungs. For cuffed tubes, the final mechanical step is inflating the cuff to create a secure pneumatic seal against the lower airway walls, preventing air leaks during mechanical ventilation. The physical insertion relies on this strict mechanical sequence. The obturator provides structure, the inner cannula enables airflow, and the cuff seals the system. In airway management, assuming the tube is in the right place based on visual observation alone is never sufficient. The first metric of success is observing bilateral chest movement that directly synchronizes with each delivered breath. But the definitive physiological proof of airway security comes from capnography, the continuous measurement of end-tidal CO2. This real-time capnography waveform confirms the tube is actively integrated into the respiratory tract, rather than mistakenly placed in surrounding soft tissue. A sharp rise, a sustained plateau, and a rapid drop in CO2 concentration prove gas exchange is occurring. Secondary metrics, including stabilized oxygen saturation readings and normalized pressure parameters on the mechanical ventilator, provide additional layers of verification. Ultimately, a consistent, healthy capnography wave offers the objective physiological proof that the surgical bypass has successfully taken over the patient's respiratory drive. With placement confirmed, the airway is physically secured. Standard tracheostomy ties are wrapped circumferentially around the patient's neck and locked to the tube's flange. A sterile dressing is placed underneath the flange to absorb secretions and prevent pressure necrosis on the vulnerable skin of the neck. Post-operative vigilance begins immediately. The surgical team monitors closely for early hemorrhage, which can rapidly develop from the mucosal edges or a disturbed thyroid isthmus. The patient is also at severe risk for tube displacement or mucus blockage, particularly in the first few days before the surgical tract has had time to heal and fully mature. Late-stage complications require long-term tracking. Over time, dense fibrous granulation tissue can grow and narrowing the inner lumen, leading to tracheal stenosis, or in rare cataclysmic instances, eroding into major arteries to form a tracheo-innominate fistula. The procedure itself concludes in the operating room, but it establishes a dynamic, high-risk physical interface. Maintaining that interface requires relentless, meticulous